And we begin at 5 with the face and name behind another tragedy. Police identifying 19-year-old Amara Marluke, a student at PSU, as the woman shot and killed on the school's campus. They say Marluke was gunned down Monday in the early morning hours near Southwest 6th and College Streets. Within 24 hours, police had arrested this man, Keenan Harpole. He turned himself in. He's a 20-year-old freshman, a former football player for the school, and this afternoon Harpole made his first court appearance. He pleaded not guilty. Court documents say this was a case of domestic violence. Now, Amara Marluke's biological mother was there watching. She read a statement to the judge. Here's part of what she said.
My mother's worst nightmare, that somebody so evil that would take her life. I'm just so devastated, and sitting here today and this gentleman looking me in my eyes, it's just heartbreaking.
Hard to hear her last words there. This gentleman looking me in the eye. It is heartbreaking. Some context here. Amara Marluke had been in the foster care system. Her most recent guardians were also there in court. They shared a statement pleading with the judge to keep her accused killer behind bars. No bail was set, so Harpole will remain in jail for now. We're going to continue to stay across the story and bring you updates here and at KGW.com. Thank you for joining us tonight. I am David Molko. That fatal shooting, the latest homicide in Portland's gun violence, and we are, for the second year in a row, on a record-setting track. The fatigue, the fear in some communities is very real, though in some spots, that is coupled with resilience. Now, stay with me. I'm going to explain why. So during a community food giveaway last month in a Portland park nearby, a man named Mark Johnson was shot and killed. Galen Etlin joins us now from Dawson Park, and we talk about resilience, Galen, because today that same group was back with an inspiring message.
Yes, David, and this location is really important to that message because 3 people have been shot and killed here since December 2020. And a man who witnessed that most recent shooting that you mentioned now wants to stop the violence through love.
In North Portland's Dawson Park on this first Tuesday of April, you can hear Michael Tabor laugh.
How are you?
And greet neighbors lined up for free food.
There you are. Eat till you're full.
From hot meals and bags of groceries.
If you need some minor toiletries over there.
Michael knows what this help can mean to someone.
I've been homeless before. I've been drug addicted before.
And because others helped him, his life turned around.
And I promise that if that ever happened, I would do the same for someone else.
That promise was tested March 1st at a similar event in Dawson Park. Michael heard gunshots and rushed over to find 55-year-old Mark Johnson dead.
Seeing someone killed senselessly made me cry for 2 days.
We have to stand up and say that we had enough.
The shooting renewed ongoing calls from the neighborhood.
We've got to figure out a way to stop this kind of violence.
That's Reverend Dr. J.W. Matt Hennessy with Vancouver Avenue First Baptist Church across the street.
Amen. Thank you, man.
Michael Tabor is part of his congregation, undeterred by the shooting he witnessed.
This community right now, I think, needs some love. If you can change one person, then that person may change someone else. And the ripple effect just continues to grow.
Really inspiring words there. Now, Michael Tabor does plan to continue these community giveaway events every first Tuesday of the month. And as you heard from his own experience getting back on his feet through the help of others, he says you doing the same can really change lives. Back to you.
The ripple effect of paying it forward. Galen Etlin. Thank you, Galen. Portland police now looking for the driver who killed a woman in a hit and run in southeast Portland. Now, first responders found the woman's body last night by the intersection. This is Southeast Powell and 47th. That is near Creston Park. They say the driver had already left. Police have not yet identified the victim. Well, day 2 of a murder trial for a romance novelist in Portland. Nancy Crampton Brophy accused of shooting her husband, Daniel Brophy. Now, he was a popular teacher at the Oregon Culinary Institute. Today, we heard from the witness who found Daniel Brophy's body. We want to warn you here, the details here are extremely disturbing. Clorinda Perez was a student at the Institute. Now, she testified today before the jury. She went to make coffee early that morning in June 2018. She saw the kitchen lights were on, the water was running. And that is when she noticed Brophy on the floor, lying on his back. Initially, she testified she thought he might still be alive. So while another student called 911, she started CPR.
His chest was really squishy. And I thought I had broken a rib.
'Cause, as I continued to do compressions, my hands started getting full of blood.
It's really hard to listen to. Brophy had been shot twice, once in the back, a second time in the chest. Prosecutors say the trial is going to be going on for a while. The DA's case is set to take about 3 weeks, and that's before we hear from the defense.
We need to have children and youth understand that even sampling one pill can end their life.
Just one single pill, and now health officials in Clackamas County are coming out with a warning today about the increased prevalence of fentanyl. That is something we recently saw with the overdoses of 2 Portland teens, and now neighboring Clackamas is also pointing to social media as the main distribution channel here. Let's bring in Bryant Clerkley on that warning for parents. Bryant.
Hey, David, and that's really the message. One pill can kill, and health officials say fentanyl is in most of the pills that kids are buying off the streets these days. So the drug is similar to morphine, but it's 50 to 100 times more potent and can force someone to stop breathing within minutes. Health officials say teens are buying the pills not knowing they're laced with fentanyl. The pills look exactly like the ones you would get from a pharmacy.
And it is cheap and it is easy to manufacture. Most fentanyl is coming from other countries still at this point, but it's coming both into Oregon as pills already pressed or as powder and potentially being pressed into new pills here.
Health officials say there's a lot of factors that can cause teens to use drugs, like depression, stress, and anxiety, and it's important for parents to talk to their kids about just how deadly drugs can be, and it's also important to monitor their social media and pay attention to the friends they're hanging around. And Nurse Cheryl Sharkey says the Oregon City School District is rolling out an educational program for all students that will teach the dangers of drug use, and it will be age appropriate. David.
A really important message to keep getting out there. Thank you, Bryant. Oregon's race for governor is heating up, and one major candidate just got a huge donation. Campaign finance records show Nike co-founder Phil Knight is giving another $750,000 to the Betsy Johnson campaign. That brings his total contributions to her to $1 million. Oregon is one of 5 states with no limits on how much money candidates can accept from donors. Johnson, by the way, of course, a former Democrat. She's now running as an unaffiliated candidate, and that means she can skip the primary, which, by the way, is 6 weeks from today and counting. And speaking of that primary, on top of some big races here, we're also going to see some key measures on the ballot. Christine Pitawanich has been looking into one of them. Christine, good to see you. And this could mean some really significant changes for Beaverton schools.
Yeah, David, that proposed 30-year bond would mean upgrades and different projects at each of the 53 schools in the Beaverton School District. And district leaders say it's especially important that these projects get done because of their aging and old buildings. The Beaverton School District is proposing a $723 million bond that will be on the May ballot.
My name is Becky Timchuk, and I am the vice chair of the Beaverton School Board.
Becky Timchuk also heads up the district's bond campaign. She says if passed, the money would go into 6 major buckets to improve schools: modernization, deferred maintenance, security, additional capacity, technology, and seismic upgrades.
We live in the Pacific Northwest, where we have been told for years and years and years that sometime, somewhere, there is going to be a large earthquake. It's just a matter of when.
That's why Timchuk says it's imperative the district begin the work to bring 40 older schools up to code. Right now, only 13 meet earthquake readiness standards. In a district video, Eric Bolkin, a construction project manager for the district, used Legos to explain the importance of seismic upgrades for older buildings.
As the ground shakes in an earthquake, the structures have a tendency to tip over. So one way that we go about strengthening the buildings is to add shear walls. This is an example of a shear wall.
Bolkin then demonstrates what happens after a shear wall is built into an existing structure.
Now, as the same motion happens, the shear wall stays, the unsupported wall does not.
Bolkin says the bond money will help make sure newer additions to older buildings can collectively withstand an earthquake.
And so we're trying to not only bring old structure
up to current code, but also make sure that the whole building is working together.
But we have a moral imperative as a school board and as a school district to invest in safe buildings for our students and staff.
If passed, for a property value assessed at roughly $303,000, the estimated tax increase would be about $76 for the first year.
While the bond would mean different projects at all schools in the district, only the oldest and those with the most pressing need would be included in the seismic upgrades. That equates to about 6 schools. More schools would be added onto the list in coming years and under different bond proposals. Christine Petawanich, KGW News.
That Lego demo, pretty low budget, but very effective there. Thank you, Christine. Let's take you to an update now on that deadly 2017 Amtrak crash in Washington. A federal jury has awarded $8 million to a woman hurt in the derailment at the Point Defiance bypass. Emily Torgeson was traveling to Vancouver, Washington when the train came off the tracks. 3 people died. Investigators found that train going more than double the speed limit at the time, and that the tracks lacked safety equipment that would have automatically slowed the train down.